This is Mike Lang with Nexel Academy. Today I'm going to show a really introductory overview of HTML and CSS. I'm going to use a tool called Visual Studio Code. It's a free download. I'm going to show over here on the screen where you can get this from. So if you go to Visual Studio Code Download and a search, this first result is code.visualstudio.com. I'll click on that. You do a download for your platform, whichever one you have. Most of you will probably have Windows. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. So I've already installed it. I've already put it on my taskbar. If you probably won't have it down here already, you can just come down here and type VS Code and it'll come up here. You open it. Once it's open, I normally keep VS Code on the taskbar even if the app is closed. The way I do that is when it's open, you can right click on it and say pin to taskbar. Mine currently says unpin because it's already pinned. So if I unpin it, this is what you'll see, pin to taskbar. Okay, so now anytime I close it, I want to go back into work again, I just click right here. I don't have to go find it in the menu or whatever. So it just makes it real easy to get going. All right, so I'm going to start a brand new project. Right now I don't have anything open. In VS Code, up this top icon on the left is the Explorer. This is showing what's in your current project, and right now it shows I don't have one. So I'm going to go and open a new one. Alrighty, I'm going to go into a folder here. I'm going to create a new one, new folder, HTML demo. Okay, all I'll do is create a folder. Now I'm going to select the folder and then click the select folder button. Alright, now Visual Studio updated. Up in the toolbar it says HTML-demo. That's the name of the folder I created. It also says it over here in the Explorer. And right now it shows there's nothing in it. If I expand it, there's nothing in there. So we need to go ahead and create some new files. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. And this is going to be the name of our HTML file. So you can name an HTML file anything you want as long as it has an HTML extension. The default page people usually do is they create one called index, because that is the home page of a normal website. It'll look for a file called that when you go to the domain of any website by default. And so I'm going to do index.html. Now VS Code gave it an icon of square brackets because that's what HTML is made of. You type a lot of, angle brackets. You type a lot of angle brackets in HTML. Okay, and I see once I clicked on the file over here, I got a new tab for the file. It's got the file name up there, and now it's ready for me to type. HTML is made up of a lot of things called tags. Tags form elements. When you put a pair of tags together, they make an element. You can have elements inside of other elements, and you can nest that structure down as deep as you want to go. The first element you need to have on a page is the HTML element. So I'm going to open that, and that's going to contain the entire HTML file, all the contents. Some people put a doc type at the top. You might see that in other videos. That's not necessary these days. That was something that's holdover from HTML 3.1 and 4, and so people had to put a doc type to say what version of HTML their page was written in. Now, in the nowadays of HTML5, there is no version past 5, and there probably never will be. They just continually update that what HTML5 means. It's like an evergreen version. So just like Edge and Chrome are, you don't ever update those. They just update on their own, just when you restart. So HTML is kind of the same way now. So we don't need a doc type. HTML is, so this is just saying we're starting an HTML document. But notice how the tag works. It has to start with an angle bracket. It has to have the name of the tag. This is called a tag. This top one up here is a tag. And then it has to close each tag with a closing angle bracket. If you do not have this, your page will not work. You cannot delete that and expect this page to still work. If you do not have a closing angle bracket for every tag, the page is going to fail. Always make sure you close tags right when you create them. So I've got an opening tag, and notice I didn't even type the closing tag. It did that for me. When I type a tag, VS Code at least, and a number of other tools will automatically create the matching closing tag. So I created another one called HTML. But notice there's a difference between these two. What's the difference between these two lines? In the beginning, the closing tag is a slash. So this is what tells the browser that's going to download this page, that's going to render this page, this is how it knows what matches up with what. So since I have this one here, it knows it's going to close the HTML tag that is up the document from it. The first one it finds up, searching up from the closing, is the one that matches it. And so anything that's in between these two tags is going to be inside of this element that I'm on. So right now I'm on the HTML element. Anything that goes in here between these two tags is inside the HTML element. If I put a note out here, that's something different. Okay, it's not inside the HTML one if it's out there. Okay, so a normal HTML file, every element needs to be inside the HTML element. You can't put another one out here. Can't do this. Okay, don't ever do that. You always want every other tag to be inside of the HTML element. Alright, so we've got a body. Body is the main element inside of an HTML file. The body represents what is the content that you see on the page, the visual part of a web page. Okay, there's another main section called the head. So again, this is just another tag. It's got an opening tag and a closing tag. The body's got an opening tag and a closing tag. You get the pattern here. Every tag will have an opening tag and a closing tag. I say every, but there's a couple, like 2 or 3 exceptions. One is an image tag, one's an input tag. We're not going to cover those really today, but there will be a couple that vary a little differently. I will show the syntax of that. There is an image one. It has a couple values you can put on it, whatever, and it closes this way. So you might see some elements now and then that look kind of like this, where there's not a second tag to close the element. Instead, they put a slash at the end of the opening one. Okay, so there's only 2 ways to do tags. 2 and only 2 ways to do a tag. Okay, we've got the standard tag, or the self-closing tag is what this is called. It closes itself because it has the slash at the end of it. Or you've got the normal tag. So it's got an opening tag and a closing tag pair. Alright, so hopefully that makes sense on how tags and elements work. Now inside the body, we can add a whole sorts of other elements, and we can nest those down, elements inside of elements inside of elements. It's really, you're just going to think of like a box for your page, and like, okay, this is going to have a top section, it's going to have a middle section and a bottom section. Well, the middle section is going to break into a left, a middle, and a right. So each time you have a segmentation like that, you're going to put elements inside of other elements. And if you look at some other advanced sites, you could see like, oh, what did they do? How did they nest elements? We got a body tag. Let's start by putting something on the page, because at this point we've got no content. This is just like the base structure that every one of your pages will have. Okay, so there's a number of tags we could do in a page for content. Notice VS Code has a bunch of suggestions for you on tags. There are some called headings, and the headings all start with H. There's H1 through H6. H1 is the biggest, H6 is the smallest. It's kind of like an order of importance. So your most important tags should be in H1, and you should really only have 1 H1 tag on a page. If you have 5 H1 tags on a page, Google's going to penalize you. It's going to make those headings not as important in the search results. So whatever the most important thing in your page is should probably be in your H1 tag. So I'm going to say, welcome to HTML. So what did I just do here? All right, so I've got an opening tag, H1. I've got the closing tag, H1. Now that combined makes an element. So I have an H1 element with the pair and then everything that goes in between the tag. Now different tags will want different things. In the case of headings, whatever you put between the tags is what becomes the heading of the page. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. I do have an extension called Live Server to do this. I'm going to recommend you install that. If you go to the extensions icon here in the sidebar in VS Code, type live in the search, and you want Live Server, just install that. Okay, that's what I'm going to be using down here. So I'm going to right click on the page and say open with Live Server. There we go. So here's our page. All right, so we've got a heading there. Now it might be bigger for you, it might be smaller because your browser might be zoomed in. So I'm going to go to 100%. That's what a heading looks like at normal 100%. Okay, let's try another tag. Let's see what it does. There's another called paragraph. And the tag for that is just a P. Again, same structure. Opening tag with angle brackets, closing tag with angle brackets with a slash at the beginning of it. Notice all of these have the slash at the beginning of the tag. Okay, so now in this paragraph, I can type whatever text I want to be in a paragraph of a page. I'm just going to do a little shortcut here in VS Code called Emmet. If I type lorem and then I hit tab, it's going to like put a whole bunch of text in here. So that's not a coding thing. That's just like a shortcut for me to not have to type all this out manually. This is kind of what people use for placeholder text on a page when they just want to put a bunch of junk on there and see what it looks like and see how the page flows. Lorem ipsum. So if I go back over to Chrome, the page updated already. It wants to translate it because that is Latin. I'm going to discard that. So we can see what a paragraph looks like and what a heading looks like. I'll make that a little bit smaller. And we can see how it wraps. Paragraphs wrap automatically, just like on any web page you've ever seen, right? Okay. So there we go. That's the really basics of HTML. That's really all there is to HTML. Tags, elements, stuff inside the elements. You can get more complicated. You can do a div is like a section of a page, and then inside this you could do a paragraph in here. You can do another heading in here. This time I'll make it an H2. You can put something in here. You can put something in here. It doesn't matter this is indented to the left. It really doesn't, but I like to format it, indent it to the right just to know it's inside of it. Just at a glance, I can tell what's inside of what, but it doesn't really matter. I can put all this whole paragraph on one line. That's fine too. I can do this. Doesn't care. This is still going to look the same. Okay, I'll go ahead and do it on this one up here. Save it. Let's go look over here at the page. Oh look, it didn't make the paragraph go down any further. Let's make some more space. Will it go down now? Nope. Same thing. I'll prove it by refreshing it. Live reload refreshes automatically when I save, so I know anytime I save it's doing it. I'll go ahead and put some more text up here just to demonstrate. And yep, it does have that text. Look, there's not even any new lines. It goes right into the next word of that sentence. All this white space is just disregarded. HTML does not care about white space. If you want it to, you have to tell it to. That's a little more advanced topic for today, so I'm not going to go into that. So let's see. That's the basics of HTML. All right, so we can have as many elements on here as we want. So let's see, how do we style something? Let's say I want this color to have this paragraph type of color. There is something called the style attribute. I've covered that in another video. I'm not going to do it that way today. I'm just going to jump right into the class attribute. A class is a way to target an element. So it's a way to target one or more elements and treat them all the same way in style. So I just give it an arbitrary name. It doesn't matter what I type here, but I'm going to type the same name up in my style definition. So let's just, I'm going to say main. I'm just going to call it main. All right, so now I can style elements with class main. Maybe I'm going to do this with one more paragraph. Paragraph. Give rid of the extra P. Do another lorem. Oh, and I made it format to the left. That's a shortcut key, Shift Alt F, and it formats the document so it's just kind of more readable on a single screen. Normally a single screen. There we go. So without the sidebar, it fits on one screen. All right, so I've got two paragraphs with class of main. This other paragraph does not have it. So these two paragraphs I want to look differently than the other one. So this is where the head comes into play. We can do a style tag up here. All right, and up here we can put some style definitions that say how to make the page look. There's three different types of selectors, and then you can combine those in lots of different ways to do all sorts of really cool stuff. One of them is an element selector, one's a class selector, one's an ID selector. We're going to really cover the class selector in this video. I do have another video where I go over all three selectors, and you could check that out. So I want to contact all of these paragraphs of class of main. To do that, you start with a dot in your selector, and then you put the name of that class down there. And then I do a set of curly braces after it. Okay. Notice before I had the curly braces, my document, like the coloring changed. That's because it's not kind of really understanding what's going on. It knows that I've got some malformed code up here, and so it doesn't know how to interpret this. Okay, it's not that smart. It doesn't know that I just forgot to close this. It just thinks, oh, where's the end of the class? I've never seen it, so it thinks all of this is part of the style. So it's not going to compile, or not really compile, but it's not going to process properly. You have to have the curly braces for every selector. Okay, so whatever the selector is goes here, and then a set of curly braces. Now inside these curly braces, we can put as many rules as we want to control how it looks. There's lots of rules you can do. All right, I just did a control space and it popped up a bunch of examples. Here's the different types of rules you could do in a selector. So a lot of stuff here. You can go look up all of these. If I just stop on any one of them, there's a little help tip to the side that says what that does. So this is how you can figure out, well, what do I want to use? You can just look at the tip that comes up. What's it for? And then you can click on this MDN reference link and it will open in a new page and it'll tell you all about what that thing does and how it works. It'll give you some examples. So that's how you explore HTML and CSS on your own. So what I want to do is I'm just going to set a color. Notice there's an option there. Sets the color of an element's text. So I put the rule name in. Color is the rule property that I want to set. Then you do a colon, and now you pick the value you want for that property.
What happened earlier today too?
So I'm going to pick aquamarine, and then you have to end with a semicolon. So every rule needs to have the syntax: the attribute name, a colon, and then the value, and a semicolon. If you're missing any of these things, your rule is going to be broken. You can't do this. Color aquamarine. Miss either one of these things, it's going to not understand what you're wanting to do. Now it even says here, colon expected. Okay, well it wants a colon. Good. This time it told me what it wanted and what was missing. Let's say I forgot the semicolon. I'm going to do another attribute. So background, I see I'm not even getting intellisense now. No intellisense. What's going on? Beige. Okay. Now what's it telling me here? Semicolon expected. Really? So it wants a semicolon here? No, it's still not happy. It's still saying curly brace expected. What? Okay, so the help inside VS Code sometimes doesn't tell you the right location of where to put stuff. It's just saying there's a semicolon expected somewhere. It can't figure out what you want to do. That's the problem here. It doesn't know what you want to do. It's not smart like you are. It can't look at this and say, oh, well, you're really missing it up here. It's not that smart. Okay, so you have to know based on the error that says, well, where is it missing a semicolon? Well, I know one doesn't go here because that's not how rules work. You know that rules work like this. So just look up from that point at the rules above it and see, well, which one is missing its semicolon? This one is. Okay, good. Now this one is fine with. Now I'll even get my IntelliSense down here. So that was my first clue. When I didn't have IntelliSense down here, see I've got IntelliSense now. Background color, yeah, there we go. Since I didn't have the IntelliSense, that means there was something wrong up above. So that's another clue. Stop typing, fix what's above first. Otherwise, if you type a whole bunch of code, it's going to look crazy and it's going to be hard to find the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and set this back to aquamarine or blue. Those won't look good together. It'll be hard to read. How about corn silk? And it shows me what those kind of look like. I'll kind of go with that. All right, so let's go see what this page looks like. There we go. It looks terrible. Let me go change some colors here. How about gray, dark gray. Yeah, a little better. It's at least legible. So my point here was just to show you how this works. Now look over here, this paragraph didn't get the style, only these two did. Why? Okay, my selector, if I hover over it, here's another tip. It gives me a little tip right above it. You see that little tip? When I hover over the selector, it's going to tell me what will this affect. It says element, in angle brackets, element, but then it's got class equal main. Okay, so main. Okay, so that's that connection. Why does it say element here? So that is because this selects things with class of main no matter what the element is. So it's not going to match only elements of type element. It's not like this needs to be element for it to match. This is just VS Code saying it needs to be an element of some kind with a class of main. So you have to kind of match that up with what it looks like, and oh, okay, that's why. If I want it to be, say, paragraphs of main, I can put a P in front of the dot. Now when I hover over it, oh, now it's paragraph with a class of main. So what's the difference? What if I did just main? Okay, let's look over here at the page, and we'll see, welcome to HTML is just black text. It doesn't have this coloring, right? What if I put class of main on this header? Heading a class main. Oh, now the header matches the same coloring style. Okay, so this one, element class main, that means any element type. H1, paragraph, div, span, it doesn't matter. Any type of element will match this selector up here. Okay, if I want to target it to only paragraphs of class of main, I can put an element selector in front of it and then a class selector. Not only match paragraphs with class of main. So let's see that now. Now the heading doesn't have that style anymore. So paragraphs with class of main. So another tip. So I've got a bunch of paragraphs here with class of main. Am I going to have to add that class main on every paragraph? No, you don't have to do that. This is more like if you really just wanting to target like some of them and treat some of them differently. That's like a way to do it. Like that one doesn't have it, so it doesn't get the style, right? So another way to do that would be you could put this into a division of a page. Okay, so I've got my opening and closing div. See the match. But these things I want to move inside of that div. Okay, now instead of putting class of main on these paragraphs, I'm going to put it on the div. Oops. Copy one of these. Put it up here. And I can get rid of it all down here on all of these. So now I only have to put class of main on one of them. Just in the parent element is what we would call this. This is a parent element to all of these other elements. So let's go back to our selector. Paragraph of class main, is that going to match? No, none of these have that coloring. So paragraph, class main. Okay, none of these paragraphs have a class of main on them. That's why they're not getting it. They're inside of a div with class of main. So we can use an element selector, div, and then space main. Now what does that mean when I hover over it? Okay, look, a div, and then whatever in between, and then some descendant element somewhere down the line has a class of main on it. So does that look like it matches this? Div class main. Well, it's a div. Oh, I don't think that's going to match. No, didn't match. So this says div. It doesn't say anything about class on the div. The element has to have a class of main. So that would mean I have to have the class of main on these paragraphs. So I don't want to do that. So what do I need to do on this? What if I do div main? Okay, div a class of main. Let's try that. What does that look like? Oh, so it made the whole div and all of its children elements have that coloring. That's not really what I want to do. I want to color just the paragraphs in there. So I can do as you saw before, I had a space, so I can put another space here and do another element with the paragraphs. I want to target just the paragraphs, right? So now if I hover over it, it's going to tell me if I have it right. Okay, div with a class main, some descendant element, paragraph. Some descendant element that's a paragraph under a div with class main. Is that what we have? div class main, paragraph is somewhere under it. Not just under it as in below somewhere in the document, but under as in inside under, like it's a child of the div, a descendant of the div, somewhere inside of it. See how that works with a dot, dot, dot? Okay. So this is going to target any paragraph anywhere inside this div. So that means it's not going to target this one out here. Yep, there we go. It's only the ones inside that div. See how this is working? Okay, let's make it, what if there's another div inside of here? Class equals sidebar. Oops. And I'm going to put another paragraph in there. I'm just going to say sidebar. I'm not really styling a real sidebar here. I'm just trying to show selectors off. So, okay, let's see. Does it affect that one? Yeah, it still does. It covers that one. See how this one is a couple levels deep? There's a div that has a paragraph. Div, div, paragraph. This still matches it. That's because of this dot, dot, dot. It doesn't matter where inside the div this paragraph is. Okay, so if we do only want to target the top level paragraphs and not the ones down in sidebar, we can do that with an angle bracket. This is the child selector. It will only select direct children of this one. And the spacing doesn't matter. I can put a space around that. Most people put a space here just to make it more readable. This is not the same as the angle bracket down here in HTML. It's the same character, yes, but it doesn't mean the same thing. We're not closing an element because we're in the style tag. Any angle bracket inside the style tag is not HTML. And actually, if you try to do an element inside of here, that's a problem. You see here, it's like, what? It wants a selector. It's not going to allow you to put HTML inside the style tag. So, all right, so this means something different. See how it shows here now? Div, class equals main, paragraph directly inside. So that'll match this, and this, and this. This one is not directly inside a main. That one's inside a sidebar. Even though sidebar is inside a main, it doesn't count. And we'll double check. Yep, sidebar doesn't get this style. So hopefully that makes sense. I have another video that goes over the other types of selectors, the ID selector and the element selector and the class selector in a different way with a different sample. That one might connect with you more if this one didn't. So check that one out too. The other video also shows you how to debug why a rule doesn't work using Chrome developer tools. So if you want to figure out why your rules don't work, check out that other video. I'll put it up here in the top of this video. So I'll see you in the next video.